Board of Supervisors must vote every 30 days. I heard somebody say 30 days. They must vote every 30 days to either extend the emergency or cancel it, terminate it. That's the law of California. Well, when I came on the scene a little more than a year ago and I went to the Board of Supervisors meeting, I didn't know what I was doing or how long I'd have to talk. Now we are organized and have talking points, and they gave us 30 seconds on Tuesday. I think I started to see my light flash. I thought I had like 15 seconds. So I looked back at, by the time I started going to the board meetings, it was right about now. It was right around Memorial Day, as a matter of fact. Last Memorial Day, I was in Sacramento, on the steps of the Capitol, having the same conversation. I don't want to be here a year from now having the same conversation. But I know it will be different because now we're organized. The way they were able to pull off this, these shenanigans was that we were not organized. And I don't blame anyone or myself because we voted for them to represent us. Why in the world would we have to breathe down their neck? But you know what? They made the fatal flaw. They made a big error. We are awakened. We are never going away. How about that, you guys? It's not going to happen. We are organized and we're educated. I went back, so February, March, April, May, it was 3 months by the time I went to my first board meeting, and I went back and I read all of the minutes and I watched all of the videos. They never had voted on the emergency. They were in error. Yes, they had not voted on it.
What's that going to be used for?
Sure seems like that, doesn't it?
Channel.
Yeah.
For
so that's illegal, right?
Laura Lee Waldorf and Radical Wellness, TV and Spec Solutions. Spec Solutions is that gentleman right there, and he's someone who I introduced to Chris Cottrell, a friend of Chris Cottrell.
And they are the other part of the law says that they are required to terminate at the earliest possible date that conditions warrant. Those are the words of the law. The health emergency is required to be terminated by this Board of Supervisors at the earliest possible date, not the latest, not until no one ever dies again. That would be like saying we have a state of emergency for an earthquake. Like, well, there's no earthquake. Yes, but there might be. That's exactly what they're doing. Now, the thing is, they don't realize that we know the law now, and we have to continue to breathe down the back of their neck. Now, I believe that they are doing a delay tactic because the governor, the soon-to-be ex-governor, announced that suddenly on July, when is it, June 15th, he's bamboozled me too, on June 15th, apparently everything's over. I love that he has a crystal ball. Oh, by the way, when I was working at the community college and they told me to go home, and I had this sense, I'm like, you know what? I don't think I am coming back in 2 weeks. Anybody have that discernment, that like sixth sense, right? That tells you something's fishy here. I cleaned out my office. I was the only one. I cleaned out my office, my desk. I had a couple bins of all my stuff, and I've never been back. But here's what's strange. The president of the college, after 2 weeks of this I don't even call it lockdown because that's prison talk, I call it a shutdown. They try to manipulate your mind too with the language. Oh, we're together, apart together. No, and then that hijacks your thinking mind, and then it's actually easier for you to be manipulated because your real good thinking, calculating mind is like, how can I be alone together? I'm healthier inside my house without exercise and sunshine. It's a hijacking of your rational mind. What else does that? Fear. Fear hijacks your rational mind. So the most important thing you can do in my mind is to be connected, because when you're with like-minded people, they can remind you that you're not crazy, they're crazy. And how many of you guys found people that helped you with that? Yeah, isn't it awesome? Love this group here. So getting back to it, the law states that these emergencies need to be terminated. And I believe that they're just kind of doing the waiting game until Newsom says, oh, everything's open again and you can go back to normal, and then they think they're going to get away with it.
They don't want to lose the money.
They don't want to lose the money, and that's fraud. So fraud, the definition, one of the legal definitions of fraud is misrepresenting information for gain, and they gained this money and they gained the control. So here's the homework assignment for you guys. In your city, not your county, but you can do it in the county. In your city, you can it's very easy. You go to your city clerk and do it in writing. There's a place on the website, and you say, I would like to have the last 3 months, pick a date, of the meeting notes from the emergency council. Every city has an emergency council that they call when there's a bona fide emergency. And it's usually the chief of police and the chief of the fire department and maybe the head guy at the medical hospital and maybe the guy from water and power. And there's 5, 7 people that get together. And I found this out accidentally. I feel really that I've had divine guidance with showing me some of these laws. How in the world would ever I find out that California Government Code defines your religious belief to include face coverings? That's in the law. Wow. So I have a religious right not to cover my face. Wow. California 12926Q. I stumbled upon this law. It's crazy, but anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought. But I was telling you about the other laws. And the fact of the matter is, friends, these laws need to be held to account. And it doesn't matter even if we so-called go back to normal. I call it better than normal. We're going to do something better than normal. Right. So I'm going to wrap up with that and let you know what that is. But these are lawbreakers and they need to be held to account. Right. Using the excuse that we're in an emergency doesn't hold water. As I say, you can't be stopped for speeding and say, well, it's an emergency. California's in a state of emergency, so the laws don't apply. The laws apply. Let me also state this. The state of emergency can only be called when enough counties have told the governor that we need help. It actually is not a bad system. If there was a fire here, heaven forbid, in your beautiful area, the governor would have the authority to call all of the firemen from Orange County and have them come here. Health workers also fall under that, so that's why they were able to get people into different states and kind of fudge their qualifications and all that. But that is, the governor only has authority over the resources of the state. An executive order does not apply to you unless you work in the executive branch of government. Anybody here work for the DMV? Okay, if you worked for the DMV, which is a branch of the state government, and the governor closed the DMV, you would have to abide by what he says because you work in the executive branch of government. It's called an executive order. It's only for his operations, not you. There's no authority for the governor to tell you to do anything, period. No individual has the right to do that. The public health officer was only intended to take care of, I don't even like that word, public health. There's no such thing. It's individual health. My health doesn't affect you. Would you please go to bed earlier tonight for me? Who's gonna do sit-ups? I need those. Chris is gonna do the sit-ups, right? Yeah. And I'm sorry I didn't put on sunscreen, so you're probably getting burnt back there. You see how ridiculous it is. This notion of public health is more along the lines of public safety, right? There's a spill, there's a fire, there's a chemical explosion. Yes, they can tell you don't go in there. That makes sense for those 7 days. Then it has to be approved and it cannot go on again forever. So they think either that you're ignorant. Actually, they're the ignorant ones. I even called my county board more than once and they said, well, you know, we're not really up on the law. And I said, well, guess what? I'm up on the law. And I'm gonna hold you to this law. So what my homework for you guys is to find out from your city if that emergency council is still meeting. And you can ask them, you can call them on the phone, they're probably gonna dodge. They don't like when I call. They're like, click. Yeah, I know. I ask a lot of questions, and one of the questions was, how many people are on the council now? I got one really nice girl that didn't realize she was giving away all the information, and she said, we used to have 11. They're not really meeting that frequently anymore. I said, oh, really? How long did they used to meet? Well, they used to meet every week, and the footprint is a lot smaller now. And I'm like, there's evidence. If I ever went to court, there's evidence that the emergency doesn't exist if the emergency council is disbanded. Anybody here work or have somebody that works in the fire department? It's a great place to start, okay? You ask at the fire department, are they on that emergency council? Are they going to these county or city emergency meetings? You can also get it through just asking the city clerk. They're required to give you these documents, and they should give them to you. So that is one bit of homework, and then you can go to the county and say, I have proof that there's no emergency, because this city, and this city that is in your district, Mr. or Mrs. Supervisor, is no longer under an emergency because the emergency council is not meeting. So it's not your opinion, it has not, and I also would caution you on this. I know we get very gripped and drawn in by the science, and oh, you know, very few people are dying, and the masks don't really work, and all. Just since you asked me to speak, I'm going to let you know that in my view, relying on the law is a very solid argument because they can manipulate the science. And if we start to say, well, no, hardly any people died, sad though it may be, even if 99